I was reminded today that I'm RC Jim, the ordinary RC enthusiast. Yeah, I had the F-16 up there, and boy, was it flying beautifully. I had have the Lemon receiver in there with the stabilization, and that was just doing absolutely fantastic. Beautiful control. Everything was going good. And so, you know, getting close to the time where it was time to land. And I thought, well, okay, let's do this right. Let's have a few passes to just sort of feel what it's like as it's slowing down. So I haven't flown this very much. And so anyway, I'm coming in way high, and so I totally cut the throttle to slow it down and bring it down. So I bring it down, have it just above the runway. It's like, okay, that's good. Let's get out of here. And so I hit the throttle, and the thing stalls. So obviously I had the airspeed too low, and with a ducted fan, it takes a little while to respond, and I pulled up a little bit too quick, and yeah, planted it in the ground. Obviously the one wing is now in about 10 pieces, and those are the pieces right there, and mashed up the air intake here a little bit. But I'm going to fix it. So yeah, why not? Let's do it. So worst case scenario, if we don't like it after we fix it, we can buy another wing. But why buy a wing when you can glue one together? Well, I'd much rather be building my decathlon right now. But I'm afraid that if I don't put these pieces together right away, I'm going to end up losing them. So we're going to go ahead and take care of this. So I've got my pieces laid out here, the way that they're going to go together. These bits here, well, these two main, well, those three bits, they're going to wait till a little bit later. This is off of the air intake. The landing gear and the rocket will go on later. That little piece I'll find where it goes and hopefully stick it in place. It's off of the wing. I've had a look at the tube, and the tube fits onto a carbon rod, a solid carbon rod that you can see there. Okay, so you got the solid carbon rod, and the tube fits over top of that. Now the side where it's busted was right on there, and of course that only comes out a short ways, and then you've got this tube that supports the rest of the way. So it busted the tube on that end, but not this end. So I'm just going to reverse it and use that end of the tube and just have this epoxied in place, and I think that'll be fine. So that's what we're going to do with that. Our beautiful nose cone survived fine. Okay, let's get this out of the way a little bit. Okay, so we got some greaseless or baking paper down here. The first thing I want to do is cut off the remainder of the aileron. And we'll stick that together separately, and then we'll reinstall it with proper hinges. Okay, so we got that cut off, so that will go on to the remainder of the aileron. And checking to see that it's straight. Looks pretty straight when we stick it together. Okay. So that will be that. We will mix up some epoxy here. Okay, might as well get started with this guy. Let's see, I got my scissors. Yeah. I'm going to use electrical tape in holding it together because we will definitely have epoxy oozing out, and I want to make as little of a mess as possible. Okay, we put some tension on the tape to get it to be pulling that together. We'll flip it over and we'll do the same, and it looks like it's wanting to pull forward, so we're going to have to counter that as well. It's probably hard to tell, but this end is pushing a little bit that way. So I want to put something on here to hold that back. So I've got the pieces stuck together. We're holding it together with the electrical tape on both sides, trying to keep everything positioned nice. Got a little bit of a groove in this piece of wood that I've got the leading edge setting on. And then I'm just going to cover that with some greaseless paper and put a bit of a weight on it. And the purpose of that is to try and keep that leading edge straight. It's been bent around a bit, and I want as much as possible to keep that leading edge straight. So we'll let that harden up and see how we go. We now have a bit of a challenge with the air intake. It's been knocked out, well, it's been crushed down this way, which has pushed that out that way. This little piece is broken out here. I can compress those in there, and this has got to go all the way up to that, so that's going to take a fair bit of pulling to get that in there. And I'm not sure whether I need to make some sort of support to go in here to hollow out a piece, round out a piece of wood to put in there to clamp against, or whether I can just pull it in with tape. So I think what I'm going to do to start with is I'm just going to glue this one edge on that, which will give me something a little bit more firm to pull against to help pull it together. And then after that's all set, then I'll work on pulling all of this stuff in to attach to it. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Tiniest bit of a bend in that, but not bad. Might get rid of it with getting this off. Yeah, actually nice and straight now. That piece of tape was holding it. Okay. A little bit knocked around, but that's certainly something that's going to be okay. It's looking nice and straight. And this is what we call weathering, making it look like it's used. And I'd say this one's been used. Don't think we'd quite be able to pawn it off as a new airplane. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Okay, nice and solid too. That's going to work. Okay, so I got that bit glued on. So we want to get this pulled together the best we can. Okay, so I've got some epoxy mixed up. You're going to use the blade to put it in there, trying to be a little bit more precise. Get into some of these tiny places. Trying to stick it down in there to allow me to get a reasonable sort of pull on it. Right. I think we've got that pretty well, the best that we can get it. And since the spot for the landing gear was quite available and whatever, we've gone ahead and epoxied that in using the microfiber cloth on that side. It's got a bit of a curve on it over there, so I couldn't just use a block of wood. This isn't real tight, but it's given a little bit of snugness to get a good bond for that glue. Well, the scoop, it's kind of together. It didn't quite go together quite as well as what I had hoped. The pulling that way gave way a little bit. So we just got some bits to fill in there, and of course over here I see that this is loose a little bit. We'll glue that. And now is the time to get this wing glued on. So we got the tube there that goes onto the little carbon fiber rod. We glue it on there, and we're going to use a string and a rubber band to compress it in place. So glue is mixed up, applied. We get our carbon rod in place. We get that pushed in place. We then get our string, which goes around that wing and around this wing. Got a rubber band on it. You can use whatever sort of weight rubber band you think you might need in terms of stretching power. And tie a little loop in it, generally. Okay, so that's going to help hold that in place. This here needs to get compressed. If I had 5-minute epoxy on there, I could just sit here for 5 minutes and wait. Huh? Okay, we'll see how that goes. Well, we've got her all unwrapped, and yeah, it looks like it's been through the war, but nonetheless, well, it looks downright flyable. Of course, we've got to put our aileron on yet. Underside actually looks a tiny bit better than the top side. And we could do some filling and painting on there if we wanted to, but I guess I'm inclined to fly it like it is for a bit. Well, after we fix the aileron. I'll probably fix this up. This is pretty nasty up here. Debating about whether to use balsa and put in a piece there, like what we did here on the little stabilizer in the back, or whether to use the Gorilla Glue and a bit of filler. We'll give that some thought. Might experiment with a Gorilla Glue and filler just to see what it does. Put some tape on there, put a little bit of glue in, then put the tape over top. Just for a quick and easy thing to see what that does. We're going to do a bit of Gorilla Glue experimentation here. Got several places where there's gaps that need filling. So anyway, no guarantees as to how this is going to work, but we're going to give it a try. Now the first thing is that this little panel here was offset, so I've put a T-pin through here. I've run it all the way through this piece of foam and into the foam back there. So having gone all the way through here, it keeps this piece straight, and then sticking it into that piece back there lines it up. So I got that lined up there pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the tape on part way, because I've got to spray it with water, but when I spray it with water, then the glue isn't going to stick. So maybe instead of spraying with water, let's use a paintbrush. Yeah, there's a paintbrush over there that I just used to paint the nose with. Okay, so we got a paintbrush, and put a little bit of water in a jar. Nice clean jar. Okay, so much for my hydration. If you ever get to Tamworth, lots of fun. Okay, okay, so I'm going to put the tape on the bottom. I'm going to dab some water into the spots where we want to work with, and then I don't think I'll fold it over because that's not a straight edge there, so I think I'll put a separate piece of tape over this way and then stick it together, and we can trim off the little bit of the edge later. How's that sound? So we'll do this bit first, and then we'll come back and do that, and this here I'm going to epoxy. It's always fun experimenting, trying new things, and especially with an old plane, we're trying to work out how to best do things and stuff. And in case you haven't figured it out, that's kind of a theme of my hobby, is working on new things and both new technologies and stuff like that to work out what they do and whether they're worthwhile and all. And then also thinking about ways to fix things. You know, some of it I've learned from others, and I pick up as much as I can because others have a lot to be able to share. But I also want to think outside of the box and come up with new ways of doing things. So this matter of putting water on a brush and dabbing it in there where I want this stuff to cure, that is a brand new RC Gym idea. Maybe somebody else has come up with it someplace along the line. We don't need a lot of water there, just enough to get that glue to cure, and just keeping it in that area that we're working with. Now with the glue, a question came up about which Gorilla Glue we're talking about. Now here in Australia, these are the two that are available. So the clear glue is not what we're using. That does not foam up and does not expand. So what I'm using is the original Gorilla Glue, and apparently in some places they refer to it as white Gorilla Glue. So either white Gorilla Glue or original Gorilla Glue, that'll do the job. And I think that this one does, it's not completely white when it dries, whereas the white one will be white. This one certainly is much lighter color when it dries than what it is in the bottle, but it won't be white. Absolute white anyway. Okay, so now best way to apply that. Okay, barbecue skewers get used for all kinds of things by me. Some of my favorite things: barbecue skewers, Gorilla Glue. A few themes like that tend to resonate. Okay, so what I'm using a barbecue skewer for is to make sure I got the surfaces wetted that need to get adhered to. Some of these areas where it's just sort of all crumbly or whatever, I'm going to try to have a little bit of a film over top of those. Again, it's a little bit of a judgment call as to how much is going to be needed to get it all together the way that we want. So now, again, rather than folding that over and having it all wonky, I'm going to put a separate piece over on this side and stick it up against that one. Tricky bit here is not having them stick before I want them stuck. Okay, so getting it all down in there. Okay, got nice flat sides. Recall when we were doing the nose, I had some wrinkles in the tape, and those wrinkles definitely came through. So in this case, I want to very much avoid the wrinkles as much as possible. I'd like that to be nice and smooth and aerodynamic. Okay, now for this area in here. So I'll do my best to get some tape underneath this. And it's fastened underneath there, so it can't go in all of the way. Okay, that's a bit underneath. Again, we will try our technique of applying the moisture with a brush. Okay. I think that's going to be about right. Okay, that's that one. And now this little bit over here. Keep in mind with this Gorilla Glue and the tape, using this tape, some of it is going to get glued right in there, and you can sand on it, you can do whatever, but basically you're talking about refinishing being required after doing a repair like that. Okay, for this one I'm going to use the epoxy. I'd like it to be that notch stronger, and there's no need to fill anything. Okay, I think that's going to do the job. While we're waiting for that glue to set, we're going to get ready with the aileron over here. I've taken a piece of tape and I've drawn a straight line down it, cutting it in half, sticking it onto the aileron in the places where I think I want the hinge pins to go. And let's see, that's going to still be perpendicular to the edge. So I'm trying to put it on there to where it's perpendicular to that edge. Now the second one out here, this part was broken off. That part just sort of got bent a little bit. Okay, so those bits are both on there perpendicular to the edge. I'm going to take this then and put it where I want it. Looking at the spacing and looking also at where the damaged bits are. Okay, I'm going to put it there, put these things down. Now I've got lines that are perfectly lined up, and I can then take a knife and cut it down the middle. And now I've got marked where our hinges are going to go. I think we're just going to use our skewers and get that right in the middle. And I'll do the same on those. I just need to get the plane turned around to do it. I've now poked the holes into there as well. We've got our hinges. I put a drop of oil where the pin is. We apply a bit of epoxy on there. We get it so it's perpendicular, so that when we put it in there, the perpendicular part is going straight down or straight up, one of the two. And we push it right in until the pin is right in line with where it was rotating. Want to clean up any residue. Even if it won't stick where the oil is, I don't want it gluing together the two pieces. Okay, we've pulled off the tape, and how do you like that? Nice feather edge along there. Quite smooth through here. If you wanted to fix that up a bit, you could put a little bit of filler in there underneath, similar. Looking at our snout here, we've got that little bit filled in there, and that's relatively smooth. A little bit of sanding to do here, but again, that's filled in. And of course we used epoxy on this, and that's looking nice and solid. And the aileron's working nicely. I dabbed a little bit of paint on some of the light spots, the white spots, to try and sort of even things out. And I'll take a file or something, sanding block, something like that, to get some of these bits of epoxy off where we had clamped it and had the epoxy coming out. And I'll put a little bit of epoxy on the leading edge, and I need to sand a bump off of it there. But basically, extremely pleased, and I'd say our experiment worked in terms of filling in those gaps with the Gorilla Glue. Here she is, all finished and ready to go. So it's a little bit knocked around, but nonetheless, halfway decent. I decided to go ahead and use filler. I used a little bit here, especially sort of underneath there was a bit of a dip. And got a few spots in there, but especially on this fin up here. I thought, well, the experiment really isn't complete in terms of using the Gorilla Glue to build that up unless I also use the filler. And of course the question is, how much knocking around is it going to take to actually bust the filler off? You know, these jets, foam planes and jets are rather well, flexible, and filler generally is not flexible. So that's part of the experiment, to see how that goes. So we're ready to get back into the air again, and I'll work on my flying techniques. I hope not to crash it again, but I expect that I will. So yeah, we'll see how we go, and we'll keep you informed along the way. Well, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do that. Yeah, that's over there, and have a look at some of our other videos on the site. I'm RC Jim signing off. You have a great day.